Y'all know I'm a big advocate for transgender athletes. I think that it's just the highest form of comedy going around right now. Listen, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock can only release so many specials throughout the year, and we need an opportunity to laugh every now and again. And while I've opined on this topic a fair few amount of times, I've told you about the solutions and how we eventually end this, okay? Women's athletics, it's normally just a little fringe activity that some girls like to partake in, and that's fine, man. Like, outside of beach volleyball, some lingerie football, does anybody really care about women's sports? Outside of the women, but do their opinions really matter? But for them to get their spaces back, you know, the ones that got infiltrated by those low-level male athletes, like, just take a look at Leah Thompson's record, 400 and some odd rank on the men's side, and then came over and started smashing world records. You know, real high-level achievers that you have over there. And then more recently, there was some cyclists, swimmers again and again and again, just beating the brakes off these broads. And I've philosophized that it would take an actual death to occur in order for anybody to realize that, yeah, this really isn't working. But then I also thought that maybe it will get to be a point of such absurdity where people will take a look at this and go, really got to rethink all of this stuff. And I know there was somebody more recently in the comment section of the video, I think it was the Bethany Frankel one, just said, wow, why don't trans athletes have their own division and we're just done with this? But in my response, I said, this is all just a big attention grab, and if they have their own division, they won't be special, because you take all of the special people from the special places where they get all of the special accolades, you put them in this little special group, and then all of a sudden, if everybody there is special, nobody's special, and then it just becomes a lame version of male sports. But then at the same time, it's better than the female competition. Like, the women's tennis is fine, mostly because it's a different sport than male tennis. It just looks like it's being played underwater. So yeah, outside of those two solutions, there's only one that remains. Make the situation so laughable and so absurd where you just have to rethink, what exactly are we doing here? Are we actually having a laugh? So here we have a male powerlifter enters the women's event and breaks every single conceivable record. Because once again, shout out to Zuby. You remember Zuby from back in the cut? Now he's catapulted, and he's a good example of somebody just shit posting on the internet, getting a whole bunch of fame off of it, and then parlaying it into just a enormous amount of success. Like 1 million followers on Twitter. You got a bussin' podcast and a huge YouTube channel as well. Like, he turned a one-off event into an entire brand. It also helps that he's incredibly talented, but his claim to fame was, well, he was in the gym and noticing, I think this was 2018 or 2019, something like that. He was in the gym doing lifts, and something sparked his curiosity when it came to, what's the record for deadlift? Okay, he took a look at the record, and it's like, wow, that's quite a bit. Or maybe it was Eddie Hall was getting ready to do his lift, regardless or whatever. And then he started to realize, oh, with all this trans insanity that's going around right now, what's the female record for a deadlift? And he looks it up. I forget what it is at the point in time, and he realized that, wow, like, his max is 50 kilos over what the world record for the female is, and he could easily bang that out. How could you make a mockery of this situation? Well, just set up the tripod, set up the camera, wander over and say, I identify as a woman, pick up the world record breaking lift, do it once, set it back down, say that you're the world record holder, expose the insanity directly to everybody's face. And that's what happened at the time. No, that just kind of came and went, because you can't go too hard on him, because he's a black guy who was living in the UK at the time, of Nigerian descent, and then spent most of his youth in Saudi Arabia. It's really tough to try to throw an ism or obe at him, because you'd end up being the hypocrite that you normally are if you're just throwing around those terms all willy-nilly. So that lobby just tried to downplay it. It's like, no, it's not a thing. But then you have a situation like this where a guy just shows up and breaks all the records very, very easily. This has got to be an inflection point, right? At least you'd hope so. A bearded pro powerlifter entered a women's competition in Canada Yo, holy man, in my backyard, I feel patriotic. For the first time since the Freedom Convoy protest, I'm actually proud to be Canadian. And smashed a record held by a trans lifter who was watching. Oh man, you broke my women's record. Sorry, what? Avi Silverberg, oy vey! The head coach of Team Canada's powerlifting for more than 10 years, entered Saturday's Hero Classic tournament in Lethbridge, Alberta. In Lethbridge, yo, that's not even remotely close from where I'm at. If you're familiar with the geography of Alberta, where I'm at, recording this right now, I'm over near, you know where it kind of looks like there's a nose on Alberta? That's where I'm at, in on and around that area, give or take, a couple 100 kilometers from the border. Actually, yeah. Lethbridge, on the other hand, way in the south, so not even close. I can't even drive down there in any approximate amount of time. That's like a 12 or 14 hour drive. That's how big Canada is, by the way. You can drive for 12 or 14 hours and not leave a province if you do it correctly. For me to get to Calgary, you probably heard of Calgary if you know anything about Canada. That's an 8-hour drive nonstop from where I'm at to get to Calgary. Yeah, because it's 4 hours to get to Edmonton. It might actually be 6 or 7. Because, yeah, it's about 3 or 4 to get to Edmonton, and then another 2.5, depending on how quickly you can get through Red Deer. Yeah, that's just to get to Calgary. Canada's a huge place, by the way, and it also has huge powerlifters. Shout out. Video shared by the athletic activist group, the Independent Council on Women's Sports Icons. Well, not too much iconic behavior if, an old dude can show up and just beat the brakes off your record. Shows him walking up to the platform, still fully bearded and wearing a regular men's singlet. He then casually bench presses nearly 370 pounds, beating the current Alberta women's record by almost 100. The current female bench press record is 275 pounds. Bruh. And the fact that, if this guy's an actual power lifter and he does 370, bro, like that's his warm up. Like these guys are pushing 5, 6. Forget, what's the men's record? I'm sure we'll probably get into that. Oh, yeah, okay. That record, 275, was held by a trans athlete, Ann Andrus. Yo, must have just trying to not make the competition look like a fool, because that's really nothing, man. I could do that. And I don't even bench like that. Who was seen watching Silverberg while volunteering at the event. Yo, they take this stuff real seriously. Andrus also holds the Alberta women's record for deadlift at 544 pounds, giving her the local record of the total of all 3 lifts combined, 1,245 pounds. That's fantastic. Which 3 lifts? Okay, you got the bench, you got the deadlift, and what else? Am I missing something? I don't see it there. Anyways. The trans lifter won 8 of 9 competitions entered by the women's category over the last 4 years. When did you start lifting? Just last year after I transitioned. Oh, very interesting. As Silverberg broke her record, Andrus stood off on the edge of the platform, only strolling back on after the male lifter walked off. Yeah, didn't want to show. It's like, oh, this is really embarrassing, huh? Icon said Silverberg mocked the discriminatory Canadian Powerlifter Union policy. That was the point, man. That allows competitors to register for events under their gender identity and expression rather than their sex or their gender, vowing no consequences for doing so outside of side looks until a dude shows up and is like, yeah, I'm going to win, and whoever the highest placing female is, they can go ahead and take the accolades, because I don't need that tin trinket. I know that I'm stronger than all of you. You know I'm stronger than all of you. I'm just going to point out the hypocrisy for everybody here to see. CPU's trans policy states that an individual should be able to participate in the gender in which they identify and not be subject to requirements for disclosure of personal information beyond those required of cisgender athletes. That's fantastic. This guy rocked up and was like, hey, what's up? My balls itch a little bit, so I can't quite get my singlet on, but I still think I can beat the brakes off these fucking records if y'all are down for that. You might... I normally like to, I like to smoke while I'm lifting. Is that all right with everybody here? Oh, okay, no, I got to do that. Well, that's racism. It also states, nor should there be any requirement for hormonal therapy or surgery. Yo, literally, you can just walk up and do whatever you want. So me, I don't even need to theoretically strap on any prosthetics to just say, oh yeah, no, that's totally fine. I'm a woman. I don't need to put on the Kayla Lemieux Z-cup titties. All right then. However, the union's competition registry policy states that the competitor's government issue photo identification, excluding youth lifters, must be verified during the weigh-in or equipment check, including date of birth, province, and gender at all competitions. Now, listen, this is Canada after all. You could just go in and get a driver's license that says, I identify as a woman today. Actually, I don't identify as anything. How would they go ahead and bridge that if somebody identifies as not male, not female? How would they do that? Or, given the fact that gender is fluid, as I've been told by the experts in Canada, how would you go ahead and allow them to compete wherever they want, you bunch of bigots? So, it is unclear if Silverberg presented a government-issued ID. No, there's probably somebody based that's on the panel is like, can you just... hey, Avi, over here for a second. Can you just go teach this weirdo a lesson because he thinks that he's real strong and won 8 of the 9 and probably could have won the 9th, but, didn't want to seem like too much of a tryhard. Can you just go crush this real quick? Because that'd be fantastic. Repeated messages left the CPU's board of direct. Yo, man, come on. I thought that it was like that little squirrely dude that was up there in the corner that was this Andrus fellow, but... yo, man, that's the come on. Not even in shape, bro. Come on. Silverberg is among those executive members listed on the CPU's website as vice president in Alberta and did not immediately agree to a request to be interviewed. I would just take a look at physiognomy, man. Like, okay, that right there, that looks like a trans activist. This dude right here, that is 100% based powerlifter if I've ever seen. I've seen those guys in the gym before. They're a hell of a lot of fun. They grunt and they yell and they scream and they're just there to pick up heavy things and put them down. They're my people. Just saying. That, on the other hand, that's one of those little snakes who's just going to go and complain to the front office worker. Oh, they're leaving chalk everywhere and I don't like to have to clean it up and get stuck in my hair. Either way, according to Icons, what Avi so obviously points out in the policies allowing men to access women's sports completely remove any integrity in women's competitions. That's what it's going to take, man. It's going to take an entire podium of beards in order to change this stuff. I'm not just talking about, anybody's sexual partners. I'm talking about dudes that look like Avi Silverberg up there, all claiming the bronze, silver, and gold medals for all of these women's competitions all the way across the board, just to show how stupid this is. Absolutely stupid. Doesn't matter how Avi expresses himself or perceives himself. Yeah, you don't ask that stuff, you goddamn bigot. He clearly does not belong in women's sports, and neither does any other male, regardless of their motivation for wanting to participate. Yeah, but you know what? I kind of want this as a trump card in my back pocket. Just hear me out here for a second, because you remember the United States women's soccer team, right? Like, they were all fine crushing cans for a while until all of a sudden somebody had a streak of woke run right up their back. Old Megan Rapinhose, or however you pronounce it. He just decided, well, we're just as good as the men, just not the boys that are in high school that beat the brakes off of us. But we're just as good, and we deserve equal pay. I reserve the right to have these an entire team of trans athletes come over and then just teach these girls some lessons whenever they get too big for their britches. Let's round out this story. However, Silverberg, who is also an online coach and powerlifting columnist, has not directly addressed the competition. Yeah, he's too busy taking victory laps, doing the old Kurt Angle chugging milk, followed by the Steve Austin chugging Budweisers. However, Andrus posted a series of lengthy video responses. Yeah, exactly. Calling him a coward and a bigot with malicious intent. Yeah, to expose your insanity, you fucking mental... Like, bruh, come on. That's a dude in a fucking dress. Like, just stop it. Still, in one clip, she openly admitted, maybe my participation isn't necessarily fair, but I want to feel like a winner. Instead of accomplishing anything on your own, you decide to go in and be the biggest fish in the smallest pond. Like, just stop. There's science. Whatever, doesn't matter, bro. In another follow-up, she said it was not her problem, however, because she transitioned almost 20 years ago. You still went through male puberty, still have male hormones coursing through your body, you still have the stronger tendons, more muscle, or the better muscle density, stronger bones, you're overall a stronger person. 8 out of 9 competitions, bro. Come on. I got surgery. I can prove it without any doubt whatsoever that I've gone through every step. Yeah, I don't need to see that weird thing that you'd call a vagina Also, don't need to see the hair that's growing inside of it either. Pause. Get that out of your head for a second. Which means whatever governing body decides to make decisions, I will pass that test. I doubt it. I actually care about women in sports because I am a woman in sports. It's ma'am. It's ma'am. Bodybuilding influencer, natty or not, Greg Doucette was among those highlighted the episode, noting how ludicrous it was for a man to so easily compete in a supposed drug-free event despite way higher testosterone. And he is, I don't know when this video is going to get released, he's going to be or has been on edit for whatever's appropriate. I'm not editing this stuff after the fact. He's going to be on Fresh and Fit. I wonder if he's going to be addressing this because that shit'll be hilarious. I think this proves a point. If a guy can just show up and then he set the record, doesn't it prove that it's not fair? How long before the powers that be suddenly wake up, smell the coffee, and understand that you're born a female, you're not going to be as powerful, as strong as if you were born a male? Like I said, man, it's going to take either a death, people creating their own trans categories, or laughing at this shit and making a fucking full-out mockery on it. I think because it's the least confrontational way, it'll probably be the mockery side of it, and then it's gonna be incumbent on these dudes to realize that maybe it's not all that fair to begin with, and maybe they'll just realize that there probably should be a separate category for us. But stop it, you bigots. But with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.